All right, so today we want to take our text that we have here and we want to add some additional elements to the design, specifically like a sparkle. Okay, so one of the things in order to get the larger letter and the smaller letter is being done with two different types of fonts or two different sets of fonts. Each of the larger letters is done with its own font. Now, in order to bring an image into the background and trace over it, I'm just going to go to a different file here. I'm going to go to images and load image. If you have the BobArt software, you'll be able to do that. And then this loads the image up. Now, from here, you can auto vectorize this. And if you do so, you can adjust this threshold and apply, and then OK. And then that will generate your sparkles. But you'll notice because it's estimating the pixels, in some areas it's done better than others. Okay, so we're actually going to undo that. So let's just select all this and delete it. And then we'll bring the image back up. So now from here, what we're going to do is just trace around it. So we're going to use line and then continuous. I'm going to turn off my snap grid and alignment tools, and I'm just going to trace around these points here, just clicking at the corners, going from one to the next until we're all the way around. All right. So that's that one. Now they all appear to be the same one, just different sizes. So we could just take the one that we've drawn and copy it. But I kind of like things to be a little bit different. So by tracing over them, they're going to be slightly different depending on where I click. Using the line continuous is just a fast way for you to create geometry like this without having to go back and trim it later. All right, so now we have our design done. For our image to turn that on or off. Now, what we want to do is select this. So we'll select it. We're going to go home and copy. Come back over to here. We're going to do a paste. And then now you can see we have our sparkles. We want to move those into position. So we're going to do utilities translate. We'll select what we want to work with. So it's just going to be the sparkles. And then we'll drag them over to where we want them to be. And then we'll choose OK. All right, so now we got them over here. Now, if we want to make them bigger or smaller, we can just use translate again. We could either select them individually or we could select them all together. Using this scale and scale from center, we can make them bigger or smaller. And then we can also change their location at the same time. Okay, so that gets us those. Now, if we want to rotate them or change their orientation, we can go to rotate, select what we want to rotate. But by default, it's going to rotate from center. So we just got to drag this from here over to where we're saying the center is, and then we can use this handle in order to twist this into a different orientation. Once it's in the orientation we want, we can click OK, and then now you can see we got that one rotated at a different way. All right, now if we want to mirror it on the other side, we can just use mirror, select everything we want to work with and just mirror it. Just make sure to choose copy, and then we have a copy on the other side. So these are some of the workflows that we had here. Now, a couple other tips. If we want to adjust the size of the points, we can use drag corner Okay, that's under utilities and drag corner. And then you can click one of these corners here. And as you move it, it's going to move those entities with it. Okay, so you can make it bigger, make it smaller, and be able to adjust this. Once you're done, you just click OK. Let me cancel. It got stuck on me there. Let me try it again. Drag corner. From here, maybe we want to just move it up a little bit. Say OK, cancel. Right? If you want to undo it, Control Z, and that undoes it. So that's how you can drag a corner. You can do that on the inside, or you could do that on the outside in order to adjust the sparkle. That's one of them. If you want to add some curvature, you could use deform. And with deform, you'd be able to pull them in like this or push them out like that. So it's just another way in which you could adjust the design. We could also use scale. So we could use scale. Why might we use scale? Scale will allow for non-uniform scaling. So you could make it, wider than it is tall. If these are all set to 1, then it stays the same, but you could say 1.2 and X, you could say 1.5 and Y. So this way you could, make it wider or taller without having to adjust the image individually. So those are some other tricks that you have there. And yeah, that's what you're looking at. Now, there are some other questions about like, how do I measure? If we try to measure this right now, you're going to see it's all selected as one entity because it's a font. Okay. So if you want to measure the font specifically or how big it is, what you're going to end up doing is exploding it. So, but if you explode it, then you lose the ability to edit the font easily. So what we're going to do is a translate, and we'll just take everything and just move it down. So we have a copy, copy 1. Okay. So now we have the copy down here. And then from here, we can just go to utilities and then explode. And then what that's going to let us do is explode all the fonts. And that will convert it into lines and arcs. Now that you've done that, you can do evaluate. And then I'm going to do the height here. And you can pick the lowest point and then pick the highest point. And then that will give you your height of this. I'm going to adjust the dimension text size, maybe add additional values here. And then this way we can measure exactly how tall these are and how they line up with each other. So, once we throw that line down, we can see the P is, at a slightly higher distance than the other one. So we can do a measure 2 and be able to measure between there and there. It picked up the dimension line. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll put the dimension on its own layer. If you don't want to create your own layer, you can just use blank, select what you want to blank, and then choose OK. All right. That gets rid of that. But if we want to bring it back up, we can go to unblank over here, and then it will show us what's blanked, and then we'll be able to bring it back to the active CAD space. From here, we're trying to find the distance because we saw the P was higher. So we'll just draw a line from the bottom of this. I'll just grab that snap point there. I'm just going to draw out a horizontal line. Okay, so then now I can measure between those two. So this is evaluate, measure 2, and I can go from here to there, and then that will tell me what all the values are. So this tells us it's this value here. We can highlight that and copy it. So that way we don't have to remember what it is. We can select our little leader line here and delete it. And then we can translate the P down if we want to make it line up with the bottom of the other letters. Okay, so I'm just going to Control V to paste that in there. And then I'll make sure this is a negative number. We're not going to do a copy, and we say OK. So now you can see the P is the same size as everything else. All right, so that's a little bit of the workflow there. Once you get the job set up, really we have a backer piece, which is just the rectangle, and then we have all the different shapes that we're going to cut out. When you're cutting shapes out, you need to make sure there's room for the tool to go around the shape. So this we may use for our render for the client, but when we go to machine it, we may move these letters so that the tool has room to go around. Same with these here. These may be the position that we want in the render, but when we go to cut it, we're going to space these out so the tool has room to cut around it. If you guys have any questions, comments, or feedback, just go ahead and reply to wherever this video may be posted. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thank you.